I'd like to welcome everyone today to the UNI press conference. First up today is UNI volleyball. Panthers will return home for their final two regular season home matches this Friday and Saturday. Evansville and Indiana State, and on Saturday night honoring Panthers senior Heather Hook. Next up, head coach Bobby Peterson.
All right, just a little bit about the weekend. Friday night, I think the best way to describe our play on Friday night was inconsistent. And my players will tell you that is not one of my favorite words. I don't like to use the word inconsistent because, especially when they're things that you can control, because I think we should, at this point of the year, be consistent with the things that we're controlling. So, not my favorite word, but there were moments of some really good play and then moments where we struggled. So, that's the word that I'm using. I give Illinois State a lot of credit. They put a lot of pressure on us on both offense and defense. When you look at the offensive side for them, they were in system a lot. I thought our serving was not really where it has been. I'm not exactly sure why, but we had several people that are usually a little bit tougher with their serve that were a little bit tentative, so that put them in system a lot, and it puts a lot of stress on your defense. I do think we did a really good job of focusing on the commits that we were having. We executed those really well, but on the other side of that, the people that we were not committing on, we really struggled with. So the placement of our block I've talked about when we're have those one-on-one situations. Our off-blocker tip coverage was probably one of the poorest it's been this year, and I've said this to many people. It's not only about those plays and those moments, but then it creates a little bit of distrust with the rest of your defense, wondering if they're going to make the play, which then makes them not sure about their job and what their responsibilities are. So it's not just about that point, it's what it does for the rest of the plays as well. So I thought we could have been better at that. Offensively, Illinois State's going to put a lot of pressure on you with their defense. They go in and out of different defenses, which is a really big challenge for our kids and what shots are open. We had 34 attack errors, which you're not going to overcome that very often when you have 34 attack errors. And the hard part is going back and watching video, it was a combination of just missing shots to not bettering the ball and putting our hitters in a good situation, and then some of the attack decisions that we were making as hitters. So it was kind of a combination. Can't really pinpoint one thing to specifically work on, but have a few things with that. So a tough 5-set loss for sure. Turn around and have a day off, which I think physically helped us as coaches. I think we just wanted to get on and move past Friday night. But on Bradley on Saturday or Sunday, we did a lot better job with most parts of our game. I still think the attack error part of it could have been a little bit better, but what I liked about it, it didn't feel like it spilled over into other areas of the game like I felt like it did against Illinois State. So I thought that was a huge positive. We were able to overcome some of those errors. Going into this weekend, obviously it's crazy that it's the last home weekend, but we have Evansville and Indiana State. Evansville will be a completely different team from what we saw at the beginning. They returned two of their kids that were hurt at the very start of the season. They're running a 6-2 now, which is very different. They are very physical at the right and middle positions, and then they have left sides that do a really good job with their shot selection. So just a very different team. They're serving really tough. They're playing great defense. And then Indiana State, we don't know much about what they've been doing the second half. We have not watched a video on them yet. Last time we had a little bit of trouble with their tempo in the middle, but kind of got it towards the end of the game, so we expect that to be something that we'll be practicing this week. As Colin said, very excited to honor Heather, our lone senior, but just a kid that has not only done a great job for us on the court, but she has grown as a leader off the court. She's a great student, really does well in the community, and just a really neat person. So I know she'll probably be pretty emotional. I think it's kind of like the days are long and the years fly, is how she's been explaining it this year. So really excited to honor her. The other thing that I would say is we have had amazing crowds this year. I challenge our student athletes to go out there and play their very best this weekend for our crowds. It's been amazing, and we're hoping to get the same kind of crowd for our last weekend. Like I said, it's been a fun year at home, and it's sad that we're almost done with it, to be honest. Any questions?
With the program's history, it's kind of easy to take for granted that you would just be in the conference tournament, but Sunday's win clinched the berth for the 33rd year in a row. What does that say about not just this team, but the program to have that kind of consistency?
Well, it's huge because you do take that for granted, and a lot of people just assume that that happens. And year in and year out, our conference just is competitive in different ways, and just having the opportunity to be in any kind of postseason is huge. So we're looking forward to that opportunity. It's we have goals in that tournament for sure, goals that we haven't been able to reach over the last few years. So it's exciting to know we have the opportunity to go for those.
And what have you thought about Rachel Cruz starting to become a bit of a regular rotation, occasionally serving for Piper and helping us out defensively as well?
Yeah, I think, Rachel has really stepped up her, she's the setter for our team too. So she does obviously runs the offense, but she has really picked up her defense. And that's been one of the main reasons why we've added her to that spot. She's always had a great serve. It is difficult to come in sometimes completely cold and put over the same kind of serve that you do in practice. But she's started to learn how to do that. But has always been defensively somebody that we've struggled with in our practices, putting balls away against her. So have definitely added to the right side defense with her. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Next up, UNI Soccer and head coach Bruce Erickson. Panthers advanced to the MVC semifinals with a 1-0 win over Illinois State. Yesterday, they will play in the semifinals on Friday, 3:30 p.m. against Drake. The Panthers will be looking to advance to their first MVC championship tournament match this Friday against Drake. Next up, head coach Bruce Erickson.
Well, a good game for us yesterday. I thought we came out and had a good start, similar to the first time that we played Illinois State, and probably weren't at our best in the second half. But as this team's shown all year, they find a way to get a result sometimes when we're not at our best. And I think just going through winning games in a variety of different ways during the course of the year, I think that helped us in crunch time, that we had enough composure to be able to hold off Illinois State team that was definitely pressing for that tying goal. So it was good to get a win and get down to the semifinals, where anything and everything usually can happen. Playing Drake, I think, is good from the standpoint that I thought they were the best team this year, and I think just being an MVC rival and an in-state rival, I think you grab the attention of our team pretty quickly with that. I think they felt real good about how we played the first time we played these guys here a month ago, and thought we were the better team by and large during that game, and just didn't do enough to win. So excited to get back down to Missouri State, to warmer temperatures hopefully, and play a big game on Friday. Questions? I think this group right away, we spent a lot of time talking about our goals and sort of the foundation of kind of a goal pyramid of what were some of the things that had to happen for us to reach things higher on the pyramid. One being making the MVC. We talked about finishing top 2, and we didn't, but sort of a goal underneath that was, to win at home, to be undefeated at home during the MVC, which we did, which we knew that would get us to probably hosting a home game, and we did. So our aspirations, I think, have always been to win the league. I think we wanted to be realistic, both with where we thought we could get, but also realistic with what we wanted our standards to be. And so I think along the way, winning obviously helps reinforce that belief. And I think by and large on our team, most of the players understood that we were good enough to be where we're at. But there's always doubt, and I think when you win a lot of games, and you win a lot of games early on, and you shut teams out, I think we're at 10 shutouts or something like that, then they know they can play with everybody. And I think every game we lost, including, really against the other 3 that are down there, were all games that we were better for a lot of the game. And so soccer's unique that there's usually not a lot of goals. So when you give up one, it's how you respond. And I think this team's always had higher aspirations, but I think I fully expect it to be where we're at. You know, at this point, it doesn't matter who's the one seed. You got to beat two good teams, you know, in 3 days. So at this point, we're all even.
That's my next question, but I think it's a good field. How's that different between you and Grass?
It'll be different. You know, I think obviously Missouri State is the host and they're there. Loyola plays on a very, very similar turf surface. Both Drake and you and I are teams that play predominantly on grass. But you know, every road game we played, with the exception of Drake, was on turf this year. So, you know, we've been pretty good on it, and you know, it's a nice facility. They used to play in the football stadium for a little while there, which was just not a good situation. I think this field's nice. You know, it's soccer specific, and even though we didn't get the result we wanted down there a month ago, I think the girls will like playing on it. You know, it's a nice and big field, and it's a you know, turf surfaces are a lot different. You know, what we have in here now in the dome versus what we had 6 months ago in the dome are two completely different turf surfaces. So I think being able to train on it once or twice a week like we have, I think will help us a lot. So yeah, I don't think the surface will change much. I think everybody in this day and age now, they're always playing a half a dozen games on turf regardless.
What do you have to do better, different this time around with Drake after losing 2-1? How much can you change or do you do differently than you did?
You know, I thought we were good defensively. The first goal they scored, credit to the kid. It was probably the best goal we've had scored against us all year, and it really came against the run of play. It was under 10 minutes left in the half. We had really kept, I thought, their best 2 or 3 players in check. In fact, I think they had subbed off at that point. It was a substitution they made that scored the goal. I thought we played really, really well. And when I went back and watched on film, I thought we played better than we did in the second half. So I don't know that I changed a lot. I think obviously we had a lot of chances early that we needed to put away. And I think we're like a lot of teams where you get the first goal, you're just that much better and that much more confident. So I think getting the early goal off a chance will be the one thing I would change, because I think that we would have played a little bit differently. And then the second goal they scored, you know, Rogers scored it. She's probably, you know, if not the best, one of the top 2 players in the league, and you just can't give her any chances, let alone one. And she took it, and that was kind of the dagger. But we fought back, and we scored late, and it was just too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next up, UNI football and head coach Mark Farley. The Panthers will take on South Dakota 1 p.m. in the Dome on Saturday, 4th straight week against a top 10 opponent in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Next up, head coach Mark Farley.
All right, South Dakota is they got a great quarterback. Really makes their offense go, and playing extremely well. Only has the one loss right now, and coming off a 42-0 beating of Southern Illinois. So they're really playing good football right now, and very confident, very good football team, very well coached. So they're doing a great job. Any questions?
You knew North Dakota State would be good, South Dakota State. Is this a bit of a surprise when you look at South Dakota and what they've done this year to this point?
I'd say it'd fall in that category as a team that showed up and is playing exceptional football. They're probably a top 5 team, I would guess. I'm not positive about that, but they, you know, of who they've beaten. I mean, beating Bowling Green at Bowling Green early in the football season, doing what they've done to Southern Illinois and other teams. You know, they had the one game against Illinois State that they didn't look like themselves, but other than that, they haven't broke rhythm, and just an exceptional football team. How they're going up and down the field, good defense, good offense, playing with younger players. I mean, you got to give them credit because they're really playing some great football right now.
How are they getting it done offensively? They're 500 and some yards of offense per game. What makes their offense go?
They go about as fast as anybody in FCS football and probably any football right now. I've seen 95, 98 plays on these tapes. As for instance, the two teams that played on Saturday in our North Dakota State game was, I think they had 66 plays and we had 60 some odd plays. In comparison, they're putting up 95 plays. So you're playing a game and a half. So it's a no huddle. They're snapping the ball very quickly. And when I say quickly, most people are going no huddle. Doesn't mean they're going fast. They're just going no huddle. When you're snapping the ball within 10 seconds of the last play being over, that's going fast. So they're doing that quite a bit. And along with that, you see the quarterback, they've gotten a lot of deep balls on people. And they have, when you do cover things up, he's ran 4 touchdowns. I mean, he got us last year on an 80-yard run, if you remember. So he's probably the fastest player in the field on top of that. So just a really good football team, and they're going very fast and doing very well. No, Eli got out of sync. There's no question. That was pretty evident. He got out of rhythm and really never got back in rhythm. And, we really didn't do anything in the first half, because as I go back to that game, opening kickoff only got out to about the 15-yard line. And then there was 3 defunct plays that really didn't master anything, kind of put us in a tough position. And then, we swung it back. Defensively, we were doing really good because we were swinging the field with the defense, actually. And then we ended up out of the 30-yard line a couple possessions later after a couple block kicks. And then we kind of got back into a little bit of a groove, got into our run game, got into the plan, got into those types of things. But, when he got sacked, then he kind of got out of sync and never got back in rhythm after that. So, actually I thought Marcus ran fairly good. We just didn't probably do it enough because we never got in like you said, never got in the field position chain game type situation to make the calls the way you wanted to call the game. So a little bit had to do with that. When we played inside defense, we played inside our 50-yard line about the whole first half and still came out with some really good defense. So as I look back on that, there's a ton of actually great things that happened. I mean, I think we held them to 26 yards rushing, 2 block kicks, and 2 block kicks, 26 yards rushing, and 2 intercepts, I think, in the first half. And then we just needed the offense to put ourselves in position so we could take advantage of that. You can't sustain that forever without getting a lead, and then you can keep multiplying your defense. So we didn't do that, and then they got the intercept for a touchdown, and that kind of sparked them right before the halftime. So a lot of things happen in those instances, but we got to get him back in rhythm, get ahead of the chains, like you said. And when we don't have turnovers, we win. When we have turnovers, we lose, and it's pretty simple. So we got to get offensively staying away from making those mistakes. Anybody else?
You have some frustration at the end. Is that something you guys addressed with the team afterwards? Just some, I don't know what it is, silly fouls or whatever towards the end. Or is that just something natural when everybody kind of gets
No, what happened? But there was those are things because it takes a mental toughness as much as it takes a physical toughness to play this game, and those occurred on the defense after the defense had played very well all day long, and then we were called for jumping off sides because we went after the block kick, and then we were actually drawn off sides by a illegal shift, and that presented another drive, and then through that time period, that's where we showed the wear and tear, right in that segment right there. I think it was 17-7, and then you had the foolish fouls, the dumb fouls, as I would call them, and to create a little bit tougher drive on us. So yeah, those are things that the mental toughness is just as important as the physical toughness when you got to endure that type of game. So that's where defense just has to sustain what they're doing, stay in their lane, and control what they control. Same as always. I think, you know, I don't see anything different than last week. It's, you know, we showed a little wear and tear in the third week in a row. I saw that last Saturday. Not as I was concerned about that in the third week, and but I thought, you know, we did hold up very well till later in that third quarter. Getting to the fourth, there was some wear and tear at that time that I started to see. So going in this game, it's the same thing. I mean, we're going to line up with the guys we got, and they'll be ready to play, and we'll go from there. Cal probably he probably could have played in that game had we needed him, but every time we play him too soon, he just gets tore up in that game. 3 plays later, he's back on the sideline for another week and a half. So when we get him back, we need to keep him back. So hopefully this will be the week that, you know, we can put him on the field and he can play the whole football game. But he could have played that day, and he wanted to play that day, but you know, he's just had some tough luck with those ankles, and every time I put him out there when he's 80%, then he gets it tore up even worse, and he sits out for another 2 weeks. So we want him back for good this time, so hopefully he'll be back this weekend.
You still feel, you talked control, you still feel control though when they accomplish some of the goals. I mean, you look at it, you're sixth in all of FCS and power rankings. You got the toughest team, the number one in the strength of schedule. Do you still feel that you guys control this part of the schedule?
Sure we do. I mean, it's a given. I mean, we have the number one toughest schedule.
That's why I'm asking.
It doesn't surprise me. You know what, we just need to line up and play this weekend, and we really need to do a good job this weekend, because I believe this might be one of the, well, it is. I'd like to see the North Dakota State South Dakota game, how that pans out, because that's 2 good football teams, 2 totally different football teams with how they operate. It'll be interesting, but the 42-0 drubbing they put on Southern Illinois was quite impressive. So, yeah, we got to do a great job this weekend, and then take care of business after that. But right now, it's getting to the weekend and getting through the weekend the way that we need to play. So we've got to work cut out that way, because this is a very, very good team. I mean, they went to Bowling Green and put up 45, 50 points on them. So it's not just by chance that they're putting up points, and I'm looking at everybody else, and they're putting up a ton of points on everybody. So we'll have to see if we can't find a way to slow it down a little bit anyway. Oh man, I look at everything. I go back to, I got film from 2001. All right, so it depends on what I want to look at and what I think it looks like, or what looks like it will work with it. I know defensively that there's not a stone that doesn't get turned. Offensive is a little bit different, because you know what the play is, you're controlling it. Defensively, you're reacting. So I want to make sure that we've seen everything that could happen, so our players can react properly. And right now, they're doing a really good job. Defense, I was pleased. I hope to get all our starters back. Is my concern on that one. If I can get all the starters back, then we just need to give them a good plan. Offensively, we need to get them settled down and get them in a groove and get them in a rhythm. And this defense will try to get them out of rhythm, because they'll bring pressure. They'll look at that tape, and they'll want to bring pressure on Eli all the time. And you know, we'll have to establish a good game plan on offense to counter that. Oh, I'm sure I did. As I watched it, it'd be off the tip of my tongue. We should have stayed with the run more against them, because we were getting the same amount of yards per carries we were getting against anybody else. And I think sometimes when you play them, particularly guys that haven't played them before or haven't played there before, even coaches, they get caught up in in the wave of the environment, and it's easy to get caught up in. And then you start to think that, the crowd is a factor in the intensity of the game. And really, your intensity is more garnered from yourself and how you're playing. You get caught up in, like, you're not moving the ball as you think as good as you are because of you feel like that environment isn't saying that you are. So it's hard to explain, but I think it's a learning experience for those coaches as much as it was for the players, and probably more for the coaches. They got to understand that, you got to go in there with a plan and stay to your plan and execute your plan, because it won't be perfect every time. If you stay to your plan and you put a good one together, you'll be better when the full 4 quarters is over. But if they pull you out of the plan early, which happened to us, then you're drawing straws, and just like I tell defensive guys, you're guessing. You can't guess. You got to get the percentages on your side and play the percentages, and let your players play to their strength. So, if anything, that was a learning experience, but I don't know if that's anything new. It's just what you should do every week.
I need to ask, but did you have a statement on Ricky Neal during the next action?
I have spoke to Ricky Neal after that fact, and after the conversation, Ricky realizes that there are other ways that he can show his support or concerns without doing it during the national anthem.
Is this something that was talked to the team about prior to the game Saturday, that if somebody wanted to do that, is that?
No. Well, it's been talked about, way back when. This isn't the first time. But what I would say is I had no intentions. That it was a surprise that it wasn't over. Usually I'm not in the field. I've never been on the field for one. And I came out after their team came out. There's 4 minutes left on the clock. So it was a surprise to me as much as anything that was still left on the leading up into the first football game. So that was the only thing that happened that I had control of was the time of going on the field. So that one did catch me a little bit off. But as far as talking about things like that, we, ever since it started way back when, okay, I know even in our whole athletic department, those things have been talked about, okay. But like I said, I had my conversation with Ricky, and it was a good conversation, and he understands there's other ways you can do some things, and he was very, how do I say, he was very good about it as far as communicating back what his thoughts were, but yet at the same time, he understands now, that there's better ways to do it than during the national anthem.
Back to this Saturday's game, what have you seen out of South Dakota's defense? I know they've got Southern Illinois out this past week, but has the defense also been a
Oh,
real
yeah.
strength for them besides that offense?
Yeah, they've been excellent. They're playing with some younger players, so they move all over, and do a lot of twisting and a lot of things like that, and to create the confusion. And they're doing a good job at it. But they're playing the style. I think their defense fits their offense because their offense is going so fast. I mean, they're 3 and out too sometimes now, so they got to get the defense right back out there. So their defense has to kind of respond and play in the same way that their offense is playing. So, and I think that's where they've done a good job, is marrying their defense to their offense and vice versa.
As fast as their offense wants to play, how tough does that make it for your defense to make adjustments on the fly, take guys moving? Is there supposed to be a time when they hold the team up and make substitutions, or is that only if they substitute?
You can only substitute if they substitute. So if they roll a guy through, we get 3 seconds to make a choice to roll a guy back. So they stay on the field is where you really get things going, is they just stay on the field and try to keep going. Like I said, I was watching I call it the shot clock, the 40-second clock, and I'm watching at 30 seconds and the next snap's occurring. That's 10 seconds between plays. If you watch most no-huddle teams, there's probably 15 to 20 seconds, if not down to 12 seconds on that. So you're talking a 10-second faster pace every play. That's why you can go from 70 plays to 90 plays when you operate like that. And that's why there's fatigue there. It creates air, and it creates that mental, call it toughness, awareness. It's got to go like that. And, they're trained that way. This is the first team that will go that fast against us, so we'll have to train our guys to be prepared for it. But, it isn't the first time we've seen this style either. So it'll be a good week's worth of work. And really, the key to the whole football game will probably be, one, the defense being able to execute quickly, through a thought process, but it'll also be the offense. Because when you play a team like this, the best thing you do is have a good offense to sustain drives, and then your defense is always, ready to go back on the football field no matter how fast they go. But when you're on the field for a 12-play drive going fast, your offense is only out there for 3, and they come back out. Now your offense is worn, and now the third and fourth quarter will really be a swing for you because of the fatigue that'll show up. Fatigue doesn't show up till the fourth quarter, whether it's mental fatigue or physical fatigue. So that's where depth, that's where pace of game, that's where all that stuff's applied when you really watch it and you stand on the sideline and you're part of their world. That's what happens to them, is somewhere in that fourth quarter, halfway through that third quarter, you really start to see, those things take place, or you're in charge of that, and then you feel like you're in control of the game too. So been on both sides.
Back to last week's game too. I think you mentioned earlier today something about an illegal shift. Was there something that happened on when they went to punt? They had like 4th and short back at their own end. They went to punt. It looked like a couple of their guys moved and we jumped off. Was that something you're talking about, Casey?
Yeah.
Like an illegal shift that they called up?
The shift occurred, and people will do this. There is a legal way to shift, and they lined up. They were in their stances, in tight stances, held those stances for a long time. And again, you got to remember the environment. You can't hear anything, so they held those things, and then they made a shift, very quick, dynamic movement shift, which is not legal. Okay, a shift is legal, but it's how you shift makes it different, and who makes that movement, how that movement is made. So if it's made to draw somebody off sides, then it could be called as such. So if it's made a move to make an adjustment in your formation, that is legal. So some of their punts were legal. In that particular one, that shift was one that was trying to create the movement, and it worked.
Did the officials explain to you later that you missed that, or did you just catch that?
No, when I went back and I saw the shifts going on earlier in the game, and that's why I wanted to make sure I was interpreting the rule correctly. So that's why I had it checked. Anybody else? Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Next up, UNI cross country and head coach Dave Paulson. Panthers placed second on the women's side at the MVC championships, bringing home some hardware for the second straight year. Also crowning the freshman of the year, Michaela Cole, freshman of the year for the second straight year for the Panthers. With a recap of the events is head coach Dave Paulson.
So we're down at chilly Springfield, Missouri. It was actually colder there than it was in Cedar Falls, which is probably a first, maybe ever, for that to happen. But overall, I was very proud of how both teams competed. The men ran first, but we finished 7th place as a team, and that's not where we want to be. But the way we had to deal with a lot of adversity this season, I was really proud of how the guys stepped up out there and put forth probably their best competitive effort weekend that we've had all season. And so I look back, it was only the second time this year that we had all that group of guys together at the same time. And so we just lacked some consistency this year. We had some injuries and some illnesses that kind of took us out of our rhythm of training. And just with anything you do, in athletics especially, consistency is key. And so the inability to be consistent in training and working together and those kind of things really just kind of set us back a little bit. CJ May was our top runner on the men's side. I mean, he hasn't run maybe more than 3 days in the last month. And so for him to get out there and finish 22nd overall for our team, running with a pretty banged up foot was pretty impressive. And so we're going to move forward with that with the guys, and we're going to get better. And the culture is good, is what you like to see to kind of build and move forward. And so we'll just kind of work on that and make sure we're a little better coaching wise too. Making sure we're communicating more with those guys so those injuries don't come and we don't see them coming before it happens. And so that's kind of the key, what we need to do on our side to make sure our program is moving forward there. On the women's side, I could not be happier with how they performed. We came in with championship aspirations for sure. We were the defending conference champions and had a really good team. We had our best race by far all season long, and Bradley just happened to be a little better on Saturday. And so, but we did everything right. I talked a lot these press conferences about having our spread really tight. Our spread was only 11 seconds from our first to our fifth. We had all the girls under 18 minutes, which has never happened in program history at the conference championships. And you can't really ask more than to be at your best on the most important day, and we were. And so I'm really proud of what we did. And we had 3 girls earn honorable mention all conference with Ashley Norm, Hannah Truniger, and Brett Corey. We had 2 all-conference performers in Tiffany Christensen and Michaela Cole, and Michaela was a freshman of the year. Hannah was a freshman of the year last year, so 2 years in a row, and we're showing some good progress with young athletes in our program. And so, Tiffany Christensen is someone too I like to point out, because a year ago she had been coming off a foot surgery, and she was told to only run 2 miles a week this week during last year. And so for her to be an all-conference performer 365 days later is a testament to her and the training staff we have, and the surgery that she had to get her back to where she's at is phenomenal. And so when you do those things, it's critical. And for our program to be where it's at now, 2 years ago we were 7th at the conference meet. Last year we were conference champions. This year we're runner-up. And so for those kids to see kind of where we're at now as a program and what we want to do, continue to be successful and be one of the top programs in the Missouri Valley Conference going forward, they definitely did that. And so, you look at the overall results, 10 out of the top 14 runners that finished in the meet were either from Bradley or UNI. And that's crazy to have just those 2 teams kind of dominate the meet like that. Was pretty fun to see, and we're looking forward. We get 2 weeks. We get to go back against the best teams in the Midwest. We have the Midwest Regional next weekend at Iowa State University, and so we're looking forward to get out there. Last year we had our best program finish in school history with a 10th place, and so our goal is to try to better that and finish higher in the rankings there. So any questions cross country? Yeah, it's big to have that success, and just the main thing is just the belief factor that now is in that group, in that event group, and with the program as a whole, is believing that they can be successful and we can have a championship caliber team. And so, as any coach that's trying to build a program up, having your athletes believe in what you're doing, buying in the process, trusting the process, falling in love with the day-to-day operations of what you're doing, and that's what we have. And it's so fun for us as coaches to see that, because it makes our job so much easier, because you can only do so much to facilitate that as a coach, and a lot of that has to come from your student athletes. And so now they're in that position where they feed off each other and they hold each other accountable and they work hard together, and they know that when they're working together, they're getting better on a day-to-day basis. It's a lot of fun. And so the future is bright, and we look to get better every single day, every single year. So that's what our goal is going to be. No, not too much. I was just glad we did it, on the day. And so that's kind of, Bradley, we didn't do it as much. And so that was something we needed to work on, and we definitely did that. And so 11 seconds that's a tight spread. And we had the best spread of any team out there. Bradley's was 12 seconds, so it's not like they were that far behind us on the spread. But the more you can put those runners in tight together is phenomenal. All of our runners were 9th through 14th, and that's incredible. You told me we're going to do that on the day. We're going to be in the hunt for a conference championship every single time out. So really proud of those kids. All right, go Panthers.
Thanks, Dave. Next up, UNI swimming and diving, and head coach Nick Lakin. Panthers won 12 of 16 events at South Dakota and defeated the Coyotes in a duel. They will be at home Saturday at 3 o'clock against Nebraska Omaha in the Glenn F. Henry Pool. Next up is Nick Lakin.
So we started out the weekend thinking we were going to have 2 meets, and then Thursday night into Friday found out that we may be moving our second meet, and then it ended up getting postponed. So we had a lot going on over the course of the 24 hours leading up to the meet, but the girls really stepped up. In South Dakota, the 200 medley relay set the pool record by over 3 seconds. Molly continued to sweep the distance events with the 50 and 100 freestyle. Crystal Florman won the 100 fly, and then the sophomore class ended up winning 7 events. Katie Taylor broke 3 pool records and won the 200 IM, 100 back, and 200 back. Kylie stepped up and won the 800 free and 400 meter free, and then Mariah won both breaststrokes. Yeah, I don't think we're exceeding expectations. We have a pretty high standard of where we want to be this year, and I think we're on track to do that. I wouldn't say we're exceeding expectations, but we have a lot of people that are moving in the right direction. So.
Especially for ending up with just one competition last week at the 19, at least compared to the schedule, quicker back to the pool than if you're in Nebraska or Omaha this weekend.
Yeah, we had a lot of events that we were going to try on Saturday that we didn't get to do, so that was unfortunate. But we'll go ahead and do that this weekend and see if we can get some of the freshmen to kind of move forward and really start participating and scoring some points. Yes, we'll have our big rest meet in November, so that'll be our big evaluator for the first half of the season, and then we'll kind of go back to the drawing board. But just keep wanting to, have people put up times that'll put us in the top 8 at the conference meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next up, UNI men's basketball head coach Ben Jacobson. Panthers have a busy week of exhibitions. First one Wednesday at 7 o'clock at Wisconsin. And then Sunday, 1 o'clock in the McLeod Center, Panthers will play host to UMC Pembroke, honoring the 1989-90 team, as well as former head coach Eldon Miller. Next up is head coach Ben Jacobson.
Thanks. Yeah, we're, as Colin said, Wednesday over to Madison to play the Badgers in a game that really popped up at the last minute. Glad that we were able to be a part of it for all the reasons. And a number of those games have been played already, and there's been a lot of money raised. Those things have all been very positive. We look forward to being a part of that and helping raise more money. And then also to play against a team that's good every year. We've scrimmaged Wisconsin each of the last 2 years, and a big part of the reason why we've scrimmaged those guys is because each and every year they're very, very good, and they end up in the NCAA tournament. They end up toward the top of the Big Ten, so it allows our guys in our program to be able to play against a team that is one of the better teams in the country. So, like I said, for all reasons, to be a part of this game on Wednesday is going to be good for us. We're happy to be a part of it, to be able to do what we can to help raise some money. And then we know we're going to play against a terrific team. And so we're going to be able to learn a lot and be able to help move our team forward. And then on Sunday, we're really excited about this weekend. Sunday with the exhibition game against Ben and his team from UNC Pembroke. And they were in the NCAA tournament a year ago. Ben has done a terrific job at Pembroke. His teams have been they've been good. And having been a Division II guy myself, having played at the University of North Dakota when we were Division II, and been in the NCAA tournament, and been to the Elite Eight as a Division II player. I've got a background and a good understanding of what it means when you get into the Division II NCAA tournament. So he's done a very, very good job in his time there, and they had a terrific team last year. They've got a nice group of those guys back. I know in talking to Eldon, they also like their new guys and the guys that were a little bit younger and maybe didn't play as much. So they'll bring a really, really nice team in here. So that game on Sunday is going to be highly competitive, and we look forward to that as well in terms of our preparation. And then on Saturday, the day prior, of course, to the game, the opportunity to get that group together and do our a couple years late, do our 25-year celebration of that 1990 team and everything that they accomplished and the run that they went on. And we've got, I think there's only 3 players that have RSVP'd that cannot come back. So most of the roster will be back. Most of the coaches will be here, the student managers. So almost that entire group, when you start with Coach Miller all the way down, is going to be back for that. And Bob Bowlesby is going to make the trip back to be with us Saturday night for the banquet and to MC it a little bit. And for him with his schedule and everything he's got going on now, a couple things. Obviously, we appreciate it that he would take the time to do it with what he's got going on. But then also, he mentioned it to me, just the having been a part of that with Eldon and with that team and having been here at that time, how much that group means to him and how much that time in his career, in his life, meant to him. So he wasn't going to miss it. So it's going to be Saturday's going to be great. Neat opportunity to see that team together again. We'll get to Exhibition Wednesday, Exhibition Sunday. Just thinking about our team right now, and then a week from Friday we'll open at North Carolina, as I think most everybody knows from a schedule standpoint. And on the injury front for us, as Justin Dahl is still battling the neck injury, and that is it's taken a while. He's been out of practice for a good couple weeks now. Hoping to get him back moving around and back in practice soon. Hunter Rhodes has got that foot injury that has continued to keep him out of practice. Wyatt has gone back and forth with. He feels quite a bit better when he banged up his knee a little bit, but now he's got a toe injury that's kept him out of a couple practices. So it's been a little longer stretch for him than what we were hoping. And then we got a couple other just minor ones, guys that may be out for another couple days. But Wyatt's the one that has been out of practice. That obviously we're hoping to get back and get in that lineup. With that, I would certainly take some questions.
What approach do you take with that game Wednesday? Do you approach it just like a regular season game, or do you try and
Yeah,
play everybody?
much more so like a regular season game. Now that we got the scrimmage under our belt from this past Saturday, and played a lot of guys in that one. And Wednesday and Sunday will both be much more like and getting ready for Friday, or the next Friday against Carolina. Gary, it's with the number of practices that we've had, with the scrimmage that we had, an opportunity to evaluate guys and see them in different spots. This will be Wednesday and Sunday will both be much more geared toward getting ready for the Carolina game. Yeah, I guess a couple things that we talked about yesterday as a staff, and we went through, again this morning as a staff and watching some film. There were some great moments in terms of leadership from our older guys during that scrimmage. Clint had a really good day for the most part in terms of his leadership and his communication. But I talked with the four seniors and with Wyatt, and Hunter Rhodes and Wyatt both being injured, it's a little tougher. You're sitting on the end of the bench and you're not suited up. So there's not a lot you can do from a leadership and communication standpoint. Clint, Bennett, Ted, when it comes to the leadership and the communication, that has to be there on every possession. And some of that is easier for some guys than others. But at the point where you're a fourth-year junior like Wyatt is, or you're a senior like the other four guys are, that has to be there on each and every possession. So there were moments where it was. There was too many times where it wasn't. From a competitive standpoint, that's when I guess shift gears to the younger guys that are playing. Trying to help them understand that you're not going to do everything right. And you can't possibly take away everything that the other team wants to do on offense. You can't block a three-point shot and stop them from driving it to the basket and do this and do that. We have a certain way that we want to play defense, and we need to work to get on the same page to do that. That takes a little bit of time, but competitively, we need to work and get those younger guys so they're competing on every possession. So aside from the basketball part, some more leadership and communication from our older guys, and then a better competitive spirit from our younger guys. And they're being slowed down a little bit because they're learning so much. Those two things would be at the front of the list. From a basketball standpoint, offensively, this team has done a good job of sharing the ball. And we've got a lot of things to figure out with our offense, but it's a very unselfish group, and they've done a good job of moving the ball and sharing the ball. That's always a good place to start. The defensively, just simply being in position to defend. We went for far too many shot fakes, pass fakes, you name it. And South Dakota State has got a nice team. Their power forward and their center are both guys that can make threes, both guys that can handle the ball, both guys that can use a ball screen, both guys that can pass. There aren't very many teams in the country where the center and the power forward are doing all that stuff. So there were some challenges there that we don't see at practice with the group we have, and you just don't see it very often throughout the course of your season. So we got caught going for shot fakes and jumping in passing lanes and guys beating us off the dribble and getting turned around. And so we've got a lot of work to do in terms of just get yourself in position to guard and stay in front of the basketball and then to block out. And, it sounds pretty simple when I hear myself say it, now or in the film room or on the court, but when you're a freshman or you're a sophomore or you're playing against highly skilled guys at those positions in particular, and then a group of guards that can kind of shoot it and kind of handle it, it's not as easy when the action is going. So we've got to get the guys to understand that you can't do everything. We need to work hard to get in position and stay in position and make it hard for the other team instead of trying to take everything away from the other team. Yeah, not as much in practice because we don't have that same kind of lineup. What South Dakota State has with the guy they're playing at center and the guy they've got at the power forward spot. There aren't many teams with guys as I described, two guys like that. So now you've got more of the floor to cover. You just got more things to do defensively because of who those two guys are. But in saying that, it still comes back to just get in position to guard and stay in position to guard and then block them out.
A plan for Wyatt in the coming weeks? Can you how confident are you that he's going to be ready to go for the North Carolina game?
Yeah, it's day to day. So he may get some practice time in today. He may not. Hoping that he's able to be in the lineup on Wednesday. So with where he's at, it's really day to day. No, nothing yet.
How did those two true freshmen, Pickford and Fife, look on Saturday? That first half of the game?
Yeah, the last time Fife played a real game, he was at Waverly, of course, and spent a lot of his time standing in the paint and blocking shots and not having to move around much. And when he checked into the game the other day, he was playing against a guy who's probably going to be an All-American who's shooting threes and running around, handling the ball and dribbling off ball screens. So he got turned around a few times. But that's why you play those games. And that's why you play against good teams, so that your guys end up in spots where they're challenged and they see some things that they haven't seen yet, some things they're going to see as we go forward. So he had his hands full with their center, and that was not to be. That wasn't unexpected. The nice thing about him is he's very competitive, and he's going to bring it on every possession. So he'll learn fast. And Ty had a good day. He was really active, and had a good day.
How do you anticipate your start on Wednesday night?
Jawan, Wyatt, Ty, Clinton, Ben. And if Wyatt can't go, it'd either be Spencer or Isaiah. Spencer's practiced great. If Wyatt was healthy, he'd be starting at that spot. But Spencer's practiced great, and so we'll see. If Wyatt can't go Wednesday, it'll be Spencer or Isaiah. Anybody else?
Anything else happen on Saturday with a player like Adam McDermott or a redshirt that kind of stood out that you could say?
Not really. No, there really wasn't. I mean, it was we had our hands full defensively because they're good and because they've got a different lineup. And those two guys up front are really good players. So we really had our hands full defensively. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Jake. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. Have a great week. Go Panthers.